Number 26 is the kind of question that comes along maybe once or twice per SAT. It doesn't really follow any traditional math class from school kind of stuff. You just really need to think about the situation that's presented and see if you can work out the details. I called this a ratios and units question because ultimately we're going to kind of think in terms of ratios to solve it, but I do not think this is similar to stuff that you would have seen in school. So don't worry if this feels like kind of weird and random. Sometimes you just need to adapt to the situation and be okay with weirdness on the SAT. It doesn't happen often, but it will happen. So here's what I noticed when I read this question. The first thing is that this huge piece at the beginning made almost no sense to me. I just didn't understand what they were talking about. I didn't really get it. And that's okay. Sometimes you read stuff on the SAT and it's confusing. That's okay too. Try to focus on the one or two pieces that you do understand. I understood what they were asking for in the actual question. They're asking for us to compare gear A and gear C. They tell me the number of rotations for gear A, 100 rotations per minute, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, what does that mean for gear C? So there's some sort of ratio, right? Like A to C is somehow like 100 RPM to some number. But this is, again, we're using ratios kind of, but we really just need to think about the situation. But one thing that really is useful when we think about ratios is that if we understand a relationship, as the numbers get bigger, the relationship stays the same. In other words, if I try to understand what happens with one rotation, one revolution, I can extrapolate and figure out what that means when we have 100 revolutions of these three gears. So that's what I'm going to do. I look at gear A and I'm like, okay, well, let's say gear A is rotating once. What's going to happen? Well, gear A has 20 teeth, so those teeth interlock with the teeth from gear B. So when gear A rotates, gear B rotates as well. The thing is, gear B is huge. It has 60 teeth. So if gear A rotates once, gear B isn't going around completely. And so this is where I kind of shift my thinking and adapt to the situation. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't think in terms of gear A. Maybe I should think in terms of gear B. Because if gear B goes around once, that's 60 teeth. And if gear A has 20 teeth, then what's going to happen is that gear A is going to go around 3 times. So think about that. Every time gear B goes around, gear A is going to rotate 3 times because those 20 teeth have to get to the 60 teeth that gear B has. So it's all just about kind of like division, really, at this point. So, okay, one revolution of gear B means 3 revolutions of gear A. Well, gear C is attached to gear B as well, so how many times is that going to revolve? Well, gear C has 10 teeth. So by the same logic, gear C should rotate 6 times every time gear B rotates. And now I have a relationship, right? I have a relationship between gear A and gear C. For every 3 revolutions of gear A, there are going to be 6 revolutions of gear C. And now I can kind of see what's going on. This relationship is really 1 to 2. So by that logic, if gear A is rotating 100 times per minute, that's really fast, well, the same relationship should hold. It should be then 200 times per minute for gear C. And I could do some cross multiplying and divide here, but I think at this point the numbers are easy to kind of just visualize. So that's how I get this, is I really just kind of think about the specific situation and try to logically put together what's going to happen. The trap is that we go the other way and we divide by 2 instead of multiplying by 2. How would we avoid that? Well, honestly, we just need to think about it and really see how these gears are interconnected. If we try to use only math, we might make the mistake because our math brain isn't good at thinking sometimes in the real world, and it misses things that just common sense would pick up. So it's tricky, but we're allowed a couple tricky questions per SAT. So if you do have trouble with this one, that's okay. It doesn't take a lot of time to think about it, pick an answer and move on. There might be stuff that is more mathematical and provable coming up later, and you should spend your time in the places that's going to get you the most amount of points. This gear question is not very important, and the odds of you seeing a similar question again are very, very low.